Hello and welcome. Today's project is all about that journey from that dependent identity into that independent identity and what that journey was like for me, what I went through, and how I was dependent on materialistic goods. I was dependent on bad relationships. I was dependent on drugs and alcohol. I was dependent on reassurance, my parents' reassurance. My doctor was dependent on, I was really a puppet to all of my inner desires, my thoughts, my emotions. I was a puppet, very reactive, very sensitive to all of that. So being independent for me was proving to myself over a long period of time that I have the inner resources to handle challenging situations without external help. That's what it was for me. But at first, I needed to break out of my safe barrier, my dome. And what that meant was I had to do things the old Brad wouldn't do. So I started to read books in the bookstore. I was like, you know what? The old Brad would sleep in. The old Brad would just watch TV, go over to his friend's house, play video games, eat junk food, get Chinese food, whatever, smoke weed, and that would be the day. This new Brad, who is tired of suffering, is now waking up earlier, is now going to the bookstore and reading for a couple hours, challenging himself, doing things that he doesn't really. I didn't want to do those things. I was just fed up and I wanted to be somebody else. So you have to go to a place where you don't want to go in order to be somebody else. Because if you stay in the same cycle, you're just going to end up getting the same results. So that was a challenge. And I moved from this pleasure island phase, this Peter Pan phase, because I was living like Peter Pan, not wanting to grow up. I was content living in this materialistic environment with these negative relationships. It was what was most familiar to me. That's all I knew. And so I had to break out of that dome. And I can't imagine the generation below me who was growing up in high school with these smartphones. I can't imagine how that is for them, because you can easily look on your social media. You can easily go on YouTube. You can easily distract yourself and get away from the underlying emotional issues, because people are becoming so detached from their emotions, right? Because we can go watch Netflix, we can go smoke weed, do drugs, drink alcohol. We can easily distract ourselves. It's too easy nowadays. And we are ignoring those emotions that need to be released, and then they become bottled up and we become tense, we become agitated, we become more unhappy the more we are attached to these devices, right? Because the ego is identification. The more we identify, the more we detach from our true selves, the more we get embedded in that ego, and then in that ego is unconsciousness. We become so unconscious, right? And then things end up controlling us. We become puppets, right? The things on the news we believe right away. The things on the internet we believe right away. We become so reactive to the billboards and these things without having our own true beliefs. So I had to develop, well, I wanted to develop my own belief system, right? And I didn't set out with that in my mind. That I recognized that development when I was going through anxiety recovery. I started to realize once I adopted teachers, once I adopted mentors, that I found a lot of value in what they were teaching, spiritual teaching. And I took that information, applied it to my life, and I found that my life was getting a lot better. When I went to the library to read, things got a lot better for me. When I went into public places where I didn't want to go, things got a lot better. When I started to wake up early in the morning, things got a lot better for me. These are all challenging things, right? Because I was changing my whole lifestyle around. But things started to get better for me, and I recognized that. And so then I pursued my mentors even more because I knew that I was on the proper path. When you start to change and then you see the benefits, you know that your orientation is more aligned to your higher self. And I recognized that. And so I started to hang out with those negative friends less. I started to eat those junk foods less. I was quitting weed, right? And that took a bit of time for me to get over. It took me some time to get over caffeine. It took me some time to get over like TV, video games. And so I realized that when I oriented myself properly, I started to feel better because at the end of the day, I felt like I actually did something. That was key. I usually slept in and then went to my friends and then ate junk food, came back home, and that pleasure island is not fulfilling. Because I came home and I felt this hollowness inside me, this void. And I was constantly feeding that vacuum. It was a vacuum. It just kept sucking in and it was just emptiness. And I needed to fill my life. I wanted to fill my life with a lot more meaning. I admired those people who were marching to the beat of their own drummer. I admired the Bill Murrays, the Keanu Reeves, these people who are just who are comfortable. They seem so comfortable in their own skin. And I started to admire these people, and I would create a vision board, and I would put these people on the vision board, my mentors, the people that I look up to, because they found their own drummer and they're marching to it. And I wanted to do that, and they seem happier about it. I recognize that, when you meet up with those people that are successful, that are comfortable in their own skin, that are confident and that are emanating that positive energy, what happened in my past was there was this guilty feeling that came about, like I could be doing more. That's what came about. Like they were this judge, and I was on trial, and all the guilt was bubbling up. Like I could be doing more. I could get there, but I was stuck in Pleasure Island. I was stuck in this constant loop. And so discipline is what helped me get out of that loop. And it was failure too. Like when I started to go to the library, I started to wake up more in the mornings. I started to avoid certain things. When you start to avoid those little things that you know to be wrong, your life will get a lot better. It just does. Because you're just oriented in a different way towards the higher good, towards this higher self. And it was those failures too, like recognizing this failure made me feel pain. I don't want to go back there because it's painful. And so that's an awakening. I was awakened to that. So I became more awakened to what was causing me pain throughout the day. So if I was watching TV for too long, it would cause me some pain because I would feel guilty. I'd be like, I could be doing more. I feel uncomfortable. I feel like I was procrastinating. I feel like I was wasting time. Okay, good. I recognized that. And then I stopped, or I lessened the time. I gave myself, I gave myself a time limit. I said, Brad, you're going to watch TV for an hour a day. That's it. And so that helped me break away from that too. And so you have to ask yourself the question, what daily habits are you doing that is pulling you in a direction that you don't want to go? You have to ask yourself and want to know the answer. And you can do this by writing it down or seriously sitting with yourself and asking that question. What are you doing daily that is pulling you in a direction that you don't want to go? And then you have to ask yourself, what am I saying every day that is making me feel weak? because what we say stems from our beliefs, our unconscious mind. And so I started to recognize what I was saying, and I stopped saying those things. So I was more quiet, right? And being more quiet is not necessarily a bad thing. What I found was things got better because I was saying less stupid things during the day. And so the more you say things, the more you believe those things, the more it ingrains your identity. So it's really important to pay attention to what you are saying. And so these are great strategies to move you out of that dependent state and into that independent state. I was, oh my God, I can't even tell you how dependent I used to be. I was extremely dependent. I was always looking up to the wrong people, but I was also believing everything that came my way without having my own solid belief system. Because when I started my recovery, I stopped watching the news. I stopped listening to the radio and the advertisements, right? I didn't want other people to influence what I believe in. I didn't want to follow what they were projecting, the advertisements telling me what to think, right? Everybody was telling me what to think. I had to find my own mentors who overcame the challenges I was facing, the anxiety, the depression, the confusion, the loneliness, I felt lost, feeling lost in this society, not knowing what to do next. And I had to find those people who got out of that and got better. And they became my mentors. I learned from them. I just focused my attention on those people, on those podcasts. I started to write notes and study those people. And then eventually you unconsciously will become like them. The more who you hang around is who you become and who you are and who you believe you are. And so who are you hanging around? What are you doing every day? Ask yourself these important questions so that you can orient yourself towards your higher self. And that's where I'm going to leave you on today's video. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Please leave a comment. What are you currently going through right now? And make sure you check out the Anxiety Project podcast. It is extremely powerful. And lastly, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next video. Bye for now. Remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell so that whenever a new video of mine appears, you will be the first to know. Namaste.